Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for Sons of Anarchy, Season 7, Episode 7, Greensleeves. And I was not really looking forward to this episode. You guys know that, and you guys know that I pretty much I did not like last week's episode at all. I was ready to quit the show, honestly. I really was, but this episode was definitely a huge improvement. This episode, in my opinion, was really, really good. It did have problems. It was not in any way perfect. I don't feel the show can be perfect anymore. I feel like they've reached a point where they can't be perfect. However, this episode was definitely really good. There were some pacing issues here and there, but overall, I still really enjoyed it. I was definitely into it a lot more than last week's. This episode pulled me right back in. There were a lot of really good scenes in this episode. One of the things that I do want to say really quickly about Sons of Anarchy that I am noticing, though, is that they're starting to have scenes that feel like they should be in the finale, and the thing that I thought was interesting about this episode was we're getting closer and closer to that big reveal, and they're really, realizing that, oh shit, we have 7 episodes left. I think finally they're realizing that, we're finally actually getting somewhere. We're probably going to have our first major death next week, and let's just get into this episode. So, the episode actually started off very weird. If you remember, Juice went to the Suns, and we didn't know what was going to happen, and basically Juice stands facing Jax, who hands him back his jacket, and Juice tells him he's sorry, and basically he's going to become a part of the Suns again. So Chibs turns away from them, Juice gets on his bike and rides away, and his van pulls out after him, and a van pulls out after him, and they each come after him and touch the graffiti that is a memorial to JT. And Bobby and Jax clasp shoulders, and Wendy then tells Gemma that she took Abel to school, and says he seems more distant every day, but Gemma says he'll be fine. I still feel that Abel is going to become like Jax, basically. Gemma is very stressed out, though, and Wendy's asking what's going on. She asks Wendy if she's seen Jax, and she then tells her that they have juice. She basically says that they have juice, and Wendy asks how this happened, and they wonder if he spilled the beans on the two of them. Gemma's kind of wondering, how did he get to Jax? Because, of course, Gemma's very worried that Juice is going to spill her secret to Jax, because she doesn't want him to find out that way. What she wants Jax to find out in the right way, and I like that she still does care about Jax, even though she did something horribly wrong. She actually admits that, and we'll get to that in this episode, there's actually something that Gemma does that made me like her character more definitely. So, basically, Gemma says this shit with Juice is on her, not Wendy. She tells her if she wants to split, she gets it, but Wendy says she's done running. She tells her she's there, and Gemma says she's okay. And Gemma says she knows how hard she's trying and says the kids do too. She kisses her on the head, tells her she'll be at the TM, and Wendy asks what Jax will do to them if Juice told. And she says she doesn't know, and that's what scares her. Definitely that scares her. So, Juice then pulls up to a cop shop, fires at some motorcycle cops, and they pull off after him. And then a black and white joins the case, and Juice speeds away, going faster and faster with a determined look on his face. And that was literally when they went to the intro. Like, that was definitely really weird when they just went to the intro. I understand why, but, like, definitely that was probably the weirdest thing they've done. So, meanwhile, Wayne is at Redwoody. They have gotten Redwoody back together, and they're basically shooting a school-themed porno, and Jax and the other guys come in, and Wayne asks to talk to him. And he says, Iggly is awake, and she talked to him, and she told him who was there when they were ambushed, and he says she's not going to, if you remember, he was with Iggly in that hospital room, and she told him the truth, and Jax asks if he's sure, and Wayne says she won't as long as the AB isn't after her, so, she's gonna be okay, that's what Jax says she's not, and Wayne asks for his word, he gives it, and Wayne says he'll make sure her memory stays vague about the motorcycle club, and Jax asks if he had to talk her into this position, but Wayne says she went to high school with Jax, and she just wants the best for Charming. That's what she's concerned about. She wants the best for Charming, and Jax says, for the record, they had nothing to do with that, and says he always liked her. And Wayne says he gets it, and asks if he's had any word on Juice, and Jax says he's still on the loose as far as he knows. And we see Juice speeding down the road with the cops behind, a roadblock ahead. He stops before the roadblock, and the van pulls up behind the cop cars. One of the bikers watches this go down. The cop tells Juice to get off his bike, puts up his hands. He does. They grab him off the bike to arrest him. So basically, you can tell right away he's going to jail. My only complaint with this is that we do not see Juice for the rest of the episode till, like, 2 other scenes. I understand why they did that, but I would have wanted this to be a little bit like Justified. Justified, if you remember, Ava got sent to jail, but that was a storyline. We saw what happened while she was in jail. I wanted to see what happened to Juice while he was in jail. That's really my only complaint here, is I just really would have wanted to see what happened to him. So, Tig talks to Ratboy and gives him instructions to head to Piedmont. He tells Jax, has juice. The police have juice, and that's the first step. And Jax says it's a very big risk, but Chib says the MC is all he wants. And Bobby says Juice did have plenty of chances to run. Tully is going to send Juice up so he can kill Lynn, and if he doesn't, Tully will kill him. Because, Lynn's in jail, basically, but they want to kill him. So Quinn says they have a place for the pastor's body. They did, which is under the Pope's building. And Jax agrees that's good, and Chib says Tyler is set to move. But the Mayans aren't, and Jack says he saw this coming and says he hoped they could end Lynn without severing ties with August, but Bobby says they're hoping to hear from Colette about the guy Jury knew how to figure out how he disappeared and maybe shed some light. So Jack says he knew they would be head-to-head with August at some point anyway, and Jack says this is more than just a street beef because August has political sway and lots of money to buy intel, and Jack says that's why they need to handle him with leverage, not blood, and Jack says they are all at risk, and Chip says they know it. Bobby says the updates, the Niners and the Mayans will be with them and those who are important relationships. And at this point, I'm thinking, what just happened to his character? Like, seriously, I like Jax's character so much more in this episode than I did last week. He was so much more interesting. I was into it more. This next scene, I have one complaint with, definitely, and that complaint is basically, my complaint with this next scene is basically that I feel that this next scene felt too much like a scene in this next part of the, a speech felt like something he'd say in the finale. He talks about their loyalty and faith to him in the last few weeks has been very important to him since his vengeance was personal. Because if you remember, this is all happening in like a month. Everything that's happening in the show is taking place in a month, and I think that actually is really cool the way they do that. I think that, it's definitely very interesting. I found that out recently, but I think it's definitely really cool they do that. So they all allowed him to bring it here. He says he knows he's asking for more than the patch requires and says he will never be able to repay this debt. And he tells them they are his family and that he loves them all. Chib says, yeah, he loves them too, and they adjourn. And Wayne tells Jax he just heard from Althea that Juice was arrested. And Jax asks why he shot at cops, and Wayne says he doesn't know because he's gone mute since the arrest. And Chib says maybe it's for the best and the boy will get his head on straight while he's inside. But Wayne doesn't seem to buy this attitude. So Gemma's at the MC working when Chucky comes in. He hands her cigarettes and she thanks him. She lights up and he tells her she can talk to him even though he's some kind of mascot. The guys think he's a joke. And he says he's a very good listener. And the lowrider pulls up and Nero is there. And she stubs out her smoke and tells Chucky he's not a joke. And she gives him a smooch on the head and he looks happy. And Nero says he went to Dioza and then asks if she's heard more on Juice. And she says no and asks if he's seen Jax. And he says he's headed to Red Woody now, but wanted to talk to her first. And I thought this was definitely very interesting and definitely something that makes me feel like they understand this is a finale. Last week's episode did not feel like a finale episode. This episode did feel like a finale episode. Now, I will say in terms of what final season is doing better. Definitely Borak Empire is doing a better final season, but Sons of Anarchy is definitely doing a good job with their final season. I don't think I'd say that they're doing a bad job. They are definitely wrapping things up very well, and I actually really like this twist, definitely. Basically, he's headed to Red Woody now, but wanted to talk to her first, and he says time for him to make a decision about what's next and right, because, for the past few episodes, Nero's kind of been wondering, should I stay in the Suns, or where should I go exactly, and he says he tried to get back to running his crew again, and says it made him feel very vital, and she says he is, but he says not on the street, he's not anymore, and he says he almost got himself killed over the Chinese deal. He says he's thinking of buying a farm, and he's planning on selling it to Jax to share the business, and he says he's going to take Lucius and go, and he asks her to go, and she says she can't leave her family. He tells her she can bring the boys and they can be a family, and she says there's too much shit going on that she can't win. She has too much going on. So Nero says he knows and tells her he's putting more stuff on top of her, and he says after the last few days he knows. He tells her think about it a little before she says no, and he tells her think about all the bad shit that's happened here, and he says they deserve something better. And I actually really like that Nero is basically wanting them to be a family. He wants Jax and Gemma and him to be a family. But the thing is, it's kind of too late. That's the thing. It's kind of too late. They have been in this for way too long, and it's just kind of too late. It really is just a thing of, it's too late. Even though they, I'm sure Gemma would love to do this, it's just at this point too late in my opinion, definitely. So, basically, Nero says he's putting more stuff on top of her, and he says after the last few days he knows. He tells her to think about it a little bit, and basically he thanks her. He says he'll see her later, and kisses her goodbye, and he drives off as Wayne comes up, and she asks if he's heard anything, and he says Juice was arrested for firing shots at CHP, and she's stunned, and he says they put him in the county. And she asks if Juice said anything to Jax, because, she's very concerned that Juice is going to basically tell her secret. And he says he doesn't know, but he thinks the guys are using Juice for something. And Wayne says he needs a few days to find a place to park his trailer, but she asks him not to go. She says she's sorry for what she said. She hugs him tight and says she can't let anyone else leave her. And the guys head to the Piedmont church, and Grant comes out and tells them that his mom is in no condition to talk to them. I'm not going to talk about the scene for that long because it didn't matter as much. It is an important scene and everything. But basically, they catch up with his mom and everything, and basically Jax tells Lourteshia that August killed her son, and she asks how he knows, and basically, they have a little conversation and everything. Basically, Jax says that he wants to actually help Lourteshia. He wants her to get out, he wants to deintoxicate her. He wants Gemma to help her, but she refuses, and, then we get a very crucial scene here, and also, basically, we find out that there's this guy in Oakland, and he's a pimp that goes by Greensleeves, and he is a very dangerous man, and that's why this episode's called Greensleeves, basically. Well, that and one other thing happens at the end, which is huge, that I'll get to. So Jax offers to let her stay at a cabin they have, and says his mom can help her detox and get her well, and I just said basically about this. But basically, they have this conversation and everything. And basically what ends up happening here is that he tells Rat to tell Gemma to go up to the cabin, and he asks what if she says no, and says she can be difficult, and he asks if he's scared of his mom, and Happy says they all are, and Jax tells her it's mother-son shit. They roll out to meet Nero, and hear that Jimmy is on Lancer, and Nero asks Jax what they want with Greensleeves, and he says they need to talk to him about someone he's blackmailing. And Nero says he's Adam Greenbelt and hustles on Michigan. He says he can ID the guy, and Nero says when it's done, he needs 10 minutes to talk to Dioza, stuff. And then we see Juice is put on a cell and asks why he's in isolation. He asks why he's not in GP, and they leave him there. So, that definitely is very interesting why. Now, I personally think that the reason they put him there is because, one, he shot a cop, so he's very dangerous. Two, they think might be suicidal, possibly. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but Juice is definitely a wanted criminal. He's been a wanted criminal for a while, so it doesn't surprise me that he's in prison, but while he's in solitary confinement, I honestly have no idea. So, Nero pulls up and parks near a Hummer where a guy is talking to some girls. He points out to Jax and asks if he needs him, but Jax says they got it. And he pulls around the corner, and Winsome, a hooker, is complaining to Greensleeves about a guy that hurt her, but then he hurts her and says it makes her stronger, and the Irani guy is paying to make her stronger. He says she's special, and the other guys can't handle it. He calls her the Winsome, lose none, and asks who put the in her, and who put the O in ho, and she smiles and says she does. He tells her no more talk about refusing customers. He tells her she's precious, and she says she's sorry. Jax pulls up and asks if he knows where he can find Adam Greenbelt, and he says he doesn't know him. Then Chivs asks about a pastor named Haddam, and he tells them to get on their scooters and get off his block. They punch Adam. His girls jump on him. It's a really intense scene at this point, but the thing is, this character, we have barely seen his character. We can already tell his character's not a good guy at all, and basically, he hops in his Hummer, hits one of their bikes, and almost runs Nero down to pull out, and I was like, Nero, don't die. So they chase down Winsome, who's terrified. Jax says they won't hurt her, and Nero says she might like to clean up and work in a better environment. And he tells her they need some information from Greensleeves, but she says he'll cut her lips off. And she asks what's their offer, and Jax says they can get her off the street and more money. And Nero flashes the Dioza escorts card. She says she's not the girl who you take to the opera, then suck your cock. And she asks if he'd better her pimp, but Jax says her employer, and says no one would hurt her. And Shivs asks where they can find the Jew pimp, and Nero says she can leave now, never work the street again. So she thinks the Jew thing is bullshit and says he has a foreskin that almost reaches his knees. They laugh, and Jax says he'll keep an eye out for that. He calls her sweetheart and asks where they can find him. And we see Greensleeves is placed on the phone when the bikers kick the door in, grabs a hooker, puts a knife to her throat, and Jax says he wants the phone with the pastor on and asks if he thinks he cares about one of his prostitutes. And the pimp goes for a weapon. They shoot him non-fatally, and they pick him up, and Jax demands the phone. Chibs goes to where he says the phone is, finds it, and checks it. The guy asks if that skank Winsome ratted him out. He tells Jax he's going to find him and kill him. And Jack asks, doesn't his religion have something against tattoos and suicide? And Adam says he doesn't care if he can be buried with his family or not. And Jax yanks him up, shoves him hard, so the guy goes halfway through the window and is impaled on a large piece of glass, and he dies. He was done with him. He's done with him. They got the information they need out of him. They're done with him. So, Jax and Nero talking while Winsome smokes in Nero's car, and Jax thanks him for helping. And I thought this next scene was really well done, because, you know, Nero's basically, at this point, is trying to convince Jax to get out of this business, to get out of the motorcycle club, to basically go to where he wants to go to with Gemma, to go to that, you know, basically start their own life. And, you know, basically, Jax asks why, and Nero asks why he thinks, and Jax says he knows he's not dealing with things well, but Nero says it's his gut telling him to talk away, and Jax says it's going to be business as usual, and Nero says he's heard that before, and Nero asks if he needs a lift and says he'll wait for the flatbed, and Nero says he's going to take the girl to Dioza, and Jax tells Winsome he'll see her later as Nero gets in the car. She asks Nero if he's a gangster. He says he doesn't think so. So Chibs is checking out Jax's bike and tells him that Tyler will meet them there in 10 minutes, and Bobby and Tig are at the Pope construction site and break in with shovels. So then we see Happy and Rat. They are basically coming for Gemma and tell her that Jax wants her at the cabin because, you know, that was Jax's specific instructions, and she refuses to go, and they tell her it's a mother-son thing, pretty much because she doesn't want to face Jax right now, just because she is basically this whole episode contemplating whether or not she should tell him. You know, we can see why, definitely, that she is definitely contemplating what's going on here. So, sorry, I'm getting a text message. Okay, we're good. So, then Jax gives the statement from Lourteshia to take it to August, and he says to tell him to meet there with no force or we'll go to the DA. They also tell Tyler they can't break him away just yet, and Tyler agrees but says he hopes he doesn't kill the messenger. And at her house, Gemma gets a gun out of her hat box and loads it. And at this point, I'm like, what is Gemma about to do? Because she took this gun, and she sees Thomas in his playpen making happy noises as she starts to panic. And I was like, what is going to happen with Gemma? Is she about to, like, kill, you know, is she about to, like, kill, you know, Thomas? I didn't know what Gemma was about to do. But, it turns out that Gemma ends up talking to Thomas and basically tells him she hugs him. She says she misses him. She says she has to tell him, but says he's the only one that really needs to know. And Gemma says accidents happen for love and reasons, and we just can't understand. She says killing his mother was an and I love that she said this. She finally admits that killing his mother was an accident. She didn't want to do it and didn't mean to do it. Because if you remember, the only reason she killed Tara was because she thought that she was involved with, you know, she basically thought that Tara was basically involved with the Sons and Clay's murder and things like that. That's why she killed Tara. So, it was all just a big misunderstanding, and she picks up Thomas and hugs him, and basically, but here's the thing, we saw Abel going to, you know, he was walking before earlier, we saw that happening, and basically Abel stands in the doorway, overhears her confession to Thomas, and basically now Abel knows. So the next time that Jax sees Abel, he's going to tell Jax, and it's going to get really intense, and I'm honestly really looking forward to this, because now we got this conflict of now Abel knows, and I think that's actually a very well-done twist, a very well-done conflict, and I definitely really enjoyed that. That definitely was something I was really enjoying. And at this point in the episode, I'm like, I really love everything that's going on in this episode. I really did. So Gemma packs a bag, and Wendy comes in and asks why they're taking her to the cabin. She says Jax wants her there, but Wendy says Jax won't hurt her. And Gemma says it depends on what Juice told him, and Wendy asks what that means. But then Happy is there and says they have to go. So Gemma kisses Thomas, hands her to Wendy, and whispers to her to have Nero come to the cabin, and she nods. So Alvarez is meanwhile asking Nero why he wants out, and I thought this was a very good scene, and Nero reminds him his brown ass was locked in a closet 2 days ago, which is true. If you remember, he was like, you know, he was locked in that closet, so, and it almost got him killed because of that thing with, you know, Jax. So Alvarez asks if Jack's okay with him selling his share of Dioza, and he says it will be a chance for them to bond. He asks for $300K with Halftown. Alvarez says he'll bring it to the table. He leaves, and Nero locks the door behind him. His phone rings, and it's Wendy, and he asks what's for and curses, then heads out saying he knows where it's at. And Wayne comes with a flatbed to pick up the bike and says Wendy called and said Gemma was upset and freaked out about going to the cabin. And Jack says nothing is going on. They wonder what Happy said to her. So Wayne asks if she'll be up there, and Jack says she'll be fine. So Wayne says okay, heads out with the broken bike. Jax thanks him as Tig tries to put on, to pet Wayne's head, and he slaps his hand away. I thought that was really funny. And Tig tells Jax that Tyler confirmed August will be at the meet, and Jax says they're almost there. Bobby then is taking off in a wagon, and at the cabin, Montez tells Gemma in the bedroom she asks for water. She gets out her gun and stashes it. She comes out and goes to the bathroom looking very cagey. She opens the door and sees Lourteshia and Grant, and she asks who this is, and Ray says it's a mother and son. And the family problem, she's there to help. She sighs, noticeably relieved. Jax and the others roll past the Mayans, who join the convoy, because, now they're working with the Mayans at this point. They join the convoy of bikes. Alvarez pulls up beside Jax as they ride on, and, then we see Bobby, and this scene was extremely, extremely intense, and definitely very crucial for this season, and this was insane. This was absolutely crazy. I gotta say, though, even though this was so crazy, it was a very well-done scene, because Bobby's singing, he drives a wagon followed by the van, and a black van roars past him, then pulls him in front, forcing Bobby into a sign right and off the road. He goes crashing down a hill and curses, but is alive, which was surprising. I thought he was just gonna die right there. He sees August, curses again, tries to grab for his phone while he repeats. He just keeps saying shit, 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 and you know that shit's about to go down. Jax and the Mayans way in the dark, but it's late, and you can tell right away that shit's definitely about to go down with him. You don't know what he's gonna do. You don't know what's gonna happen to him, but I kind of thought they were gonna kill him off in this episode. I thought they were going to. So Chib says he's going to call Tyler, and Wendy checks on the sleeping boys and turns off the lamp, and Abel opens his eyes. And basically, at the shop, Wayne and Chucky watch the guys unload Jax's bike. Juice sits in his cell, and another prisoner is brought to the cell with him, and Harlan tells him to relax and says he's a friend of Tully's, and they both sit. And my prediction is that this guy is actually going to help Juice and going to get him, help get him out of this. I feel like that's what's going to happen here. And not exactly like the Justified thing, but I don't know why I keep comparing this to Justified. They're very similar shows in my... Well, they're not similar at all because, one's about police and this one's about a motorcycle club. They're the same in the sense that they have similar storylines. So they both sit and Nero shows up to the cabin and pounds on the door and they ask why he's there. And he asks, where's Gemma? And she comes out of the bedroom and tells the guys she asked him to come. And they ask if Jax knows. And she says they kidnapped her to help a junkie and says she needed another junkie to do it. She hugs Nero. And Alvarez asks Jax what he wants to do. By the way, there's a montage going on this point. Katie Seagal singing Greensleeves. I thought it was an okay montage. Definitely not the best montage so far. The best montage so far is still the Aquarius one from 2 episodes ago. The only thing, I did not really like this cover. I didn't. I was not really a fan of the way this sounded. I wasn't a fan that they had a Christmas song at the end of this episode. I just thought that was kind of ridiculous. The scene was very well done, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like that was, that kind of made it not as good as it could have been, in my opinion. So Gemma comes out of the bedroom, tells the guys she has to come, and they ask if Jax knows, and she says they kidnapped her to help a junkie, and says she need another junkie to do it. She hugs Nero, and Alvarez asks Jax what he wants to do there. An hour late, a car approaches and parks. A guy gets out and says his name is Moses, and says he's the head of Augustus Security. He lays down this box, and I felt like we were about to have a Seven moment, because I thought someone was going to be like, what's in the box? What's in the box? That's what I thought was going to happen. And I myself was like, okay, what is in that box? Now, I personally felt this was going to end like 7, where basically Bobby's head would be in that box. I thought that's what they were going to find out, because you knew something was going to happen to Bobby. The second that August got him, you knew something was going to happen to him. So basically, he tells Jax he admires his level of camaraderie. He says he can see how brotherhood is important to all of them, and he tells him to have a good evening and walks away. He approaches the box. They all gather around. They have no idea what's in it, and they see 2 things. He opens it up, and they see Bobby's patches. So that's really weird, that his patches are there. And there's something else in the box that Jax pulls out. First is a tablet, and it shows a video of Bobby screaming. He doesn't have an eye. He's lost his eye. He's, screaming for his life. It's really hard to watch this scene, I gotta say. The scene was definitely the most gruesome scene I've seen in Sons of Anarchy so far. It was really gruesome. It was really hard to watch, and just amazingly done, but so hard to watch. And he has a very bloody face, and we don't see what is done to him at first, but then Jax pulls out a small container with Bobby's eyeball in it. He's very distraught, and basically, they know that Bobby's in trouble. We don't know where he went to. We don't know where August took him, but Jax walks into the darkness alone. And I thought that was the perfect way to end this episode. And guys, I am so happy with this episode. They improved so much in this episode because I was ready to quit the show. As I said, I was ready to quit the show. This episode really pulled me back in. Now, don't get me wrong. This episode had problems. It was in no way a perfect episode. It had a lot of problems, which I am going to talk about. First of all, they're starting to show a lot of scenes that are really good, but I feel like they should wait till the finale. For example, the scene where Jax talked to the sons about, you know, how much they're a family to him. I feel like that should be in the finale. That would have been a really good finale scene. I definitely feel there's going to be a similar scene like that, definitely. Bobby is definitely going to die. There's nothing they can do about it. You can already tell they're killing off Bobby. Now, the reason I know he's going to die is because they said in episode 9 they're going to kill off a character. Plus, the description for episode 10 says the characters deal with grief. So I'm assuming that Bobby's probably going to get it. As far as August goes, August is definitely going to die after this. Definitely. August, basically, you know, just betrayed them. And basically, Jax didn't want to have to do this. But now he has to kill August, basically, and he didn't want to. So I also really like this plot of Nero. My question is Nero going to be able to convince Jax to possibly get out of this? You know, he didn't convince him yet, but I'm wondering if towards the end of the show, maybe he's going to convince him. I still don't feel Jax is going to make it out of the show. I don't feel he's going to. However, in my opinion, I think here's what's going to happen. Jax might maybe say yes, and basically maybe they go to the cabin. I don't know. Also, now, of course, we have that huge conflict of Abel knowing about Gemma killing Jax, of course. And my question here is, if Jax meets up with Abel again, is Abel going to tell Jax the truth? I definitely feel like he's going to find out, you know. Is this guy going to help Juice out of prison? I'm wondering what's going to happen there. I think he is going to help him out of prison, but I guess we'll just have to see. This episode was actually 1 minute longer than last week's episode, but I had no problems with it. I thought this episode was really good. Well, I had those problems here and there. Some scenes dragged on a little bit too much, but the thing I did like about this episode was every scene mattered. There wasn't a scene in there that did not matter. There wasn't a scene in there that wasn't important. There wasn't anything in there that didn't... Their only scene that dragged on was the Lourteshia and Grant scene. That scene dragged on for a little too long. I care about that plot, but it felt like that dragged on a little too much, and we didn't need to see as much of it as we ended up seeing. Other than that, though, I really had no problems with this episode, which is, I'm very happy to say that, because I thought I would, and I didn't have any issues with it, so I'm definitely very happy about that. But that's basically it for my review. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. I thought this episode was amazing. I loved it. I loved it. Thought it was just absolutely fantastic. And definitely probably best episode of the season so far. Absolutely loved it. The montage, though, was okay. You know, montage was okay, but definitely shit's going to go down the show. Definitely next week shit's about to go down. And definitely Sons of Anarchy, thank you for fixing everything I wanted you to. I don't know why I'm saying thank you because they're not listening to this or anything. But I think they kind of realized that the last episode was extremely filler, and they need to sort of start tying up things and start closing out storylines. And I think now they're realizing that, and I'm very happy they are, because the show is like 10 times better than it already was. And that's basically it, guys. So I will see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for Awkward. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.